Hello friends, another video from Drywall Repairman. On this channel we have mostly videos of drywall repairs such as patching, stress cracks, texture matching, small jobs, easy jobs, do-it-yourself type jobs. We are on the job working, so as I'm working I'm trying to make simple videos to show you guys how to do watch and learn type videos. So let's go ahead and jump into the video here and see what's involved. Also, at the end of the video, please subscribe, like, and comment, and jump in the other playlists and watch my other videos. Hey, thanks for watching this video.
First step, always dig out your old tape, your paper tape's original paper tape. I always like to dig it out if possible. It creates a channel. Throw some screws in it, always tighten up with screws, and then use fiberglass mesh tape. Just like on all my other videos, I always use fiberglass mesh tape on repairs. But your fiberglass mesh sits inside the groove of the old tape. So now I just have to fill in the groove where the tape is. I don't have to sit here and mud out this whole area and blow it out and crown out the joint. We just have to fill it in. So just two tight coats of mud and it'll fill in this groove that we dug out. You always want to dig out the old tape, you know. You don't want to just put a band-aid over a band-aid. You want to get the old stuff out. It failed. Garages like this, they always crack out. This is a newer house. This house is not even 10-15 years old and you're already getting cracks. So we dig out the old paper tape, add plenty of screws to tighten up the sheetrock, fiberglass it. I basically didn't want to bore you with digging it out. I have plenty of videos on from start to finish of stress crack repairs, so you could jump in my other videos, my stress crack repair videos, to see the full process. But basically we're just gonna do this. We're gonna do a first coat on this with a hot mud, turn around, slick it out, then do a second coat with hot mud, and then we're gonna turn around, slick it out as that sets up, and then we're gonna follow it through with the texture here. It's called a skip trowel. Common texture in these newer homes. But let's go ahead, I'm gonna mix some 5-minute mud, and then we're gonna go ahead and get this all coated out. You can mix in your area here, but I like to mix out on my truck. Look at this one. Ooh, nice. That's why they're working on their garage. It's nice. As you can tell, I'm a poor drywaller working for that. But here we go. We got the 5-minute mud like always, powder form, clean water. Always start with fresh water. Basically just mix a pan. All we need is a pan at a time. Some guys like to use like 20-minute or 40-minute and mix a half a bucket or whatever. Whatever's easiest for you. Sometimes easier just to do a pan at a time. Mix it up, put the mud on, clean out your pan, mix another, clean up your pan, mix another. A job like this might take 2 or 3 pans. So let's go ahead and mix up our first pan of hot mud. I don't like to fill the pan up completely. This is an 18-inch pan, so I can mix a lot more than your regular 12 or 14-inch pan. Fresh water, just a sponge full. Mix it in. A lot of guys have different techniques of mixing. I just use a clean 6-inch knife and just mix it thoroughly until you get a nice creamy consistency. The consistency is thick like a heavy pancake batter. But let's go ahead and mix this up with our 6-inch knife. My go-to knife's a 12-inch knife. A lot of guys like to start with the first coat with a 10-inch knife or 8-inch knife. That's fine. I just use one knife. I don't need to carry a bunch of knives. But we're going to start on this bottom seam. Then I'm going to reposition the camera to do the ceiling stuff off the ladder. But let's go ahead and do this one first so you kind of get an idea what I mean by filling in this channel. In the channel, nice first coat. You're not trying to put the mud on super heavy. This is hot muds. Maybe with the joint compound you put on a little heavier because joint compounds have to dry overnight and they shrink back. These hot muds are going to set up just how you put them on. And then I'm going to follow through with the second coat. I'll put it on a little heavier just to fill it in. But let's go ahead. I'm going to reposition the camera and just watch me do the ones on the ceiling. This is a long ceiling all the way across. So we're going to go ahead and get that one nicely coated. First coated, I got one more to do. So let's go ahead and get that coated and then clean out our pan, knife, and get ready to do the second coat process. I also have two anchor holes right there that I taped over. Small holes like that you can just tape over and mud over with these hot muds. Easy, easy. Like I said, digging out that old tape gave us that groove. Easy coat. I didn't use a half a pan of mud. Did that full length one. We're good to go. Always scrape out your mud. As you can see, the mud here is already setting up, so scrape out your mud in a place that you won't step in it. Trash area, I call it. Also, the pieces that you cut out, you can keep a piece of that and use that for your paint match. You just take it to a paint store and they're pretty good at paint matching. I think you just need like a 3" by 3" piece or so, and they put it in the computer and it matches up pretty well. You can't match dirt and age, but you can get pretty close. Nothing's better than original formula for paint, but they can do a pretty good paint match. A garage like this gets high trafficked area, so they'll probably have to repaint the whole area. But let's go ahead and get this all cleaned up. You always want to clean out your hot muds out of your pans before they set up. Again, look at this nice eye candy. V10. Wow. If you don't have a washout area, just wash out in your bucket, sponge. I like to keep my lid on my hot mud so I don't get no water droplets in there. Then I'll have a bunch of little water droplet rocks in there, and then I go mix another pan, I'll have all these little rock gritty stuff in my pan. So always keep a lid on your hot mud, keep it away from the water bucket when you're splishing, splashing, washing up. Get your tools cleaned up. This mud's starting to set up, so let me get it cleaned up real quick. Yeah, you want to always wash up your tools right away. If that hot mud sets up in the pan, it's like then you'll have to scrape it out, and it'll be almost like trying to scrape cement out of a metal pan. So you always clean up your tools right away. The mud in there, the first coat's already setting up, so we need a wet sponge, a clean 6" knife, and we're going to do the slick out technique. The slick out technique's always done with hot muds. Wow, look at that, huh? Woo, all right. All right, enough of that. Get back to reality. But I'm going to show you on this one, since it's right here on the ground, and then I'm going to get up on the ladder and do those ones. But let's go ahead and slick it out. Just watch and learn. This is what it's done with hot muds only. You don't do this with joint compounds, just hot muds. Hot muds set up, so you got to wet slick them out with a sponge and a 6" knife. If you don't do it before they dry, that's going to set up like a cement coat on your wall. So that's why you want to slick it out before it fully sets up. Nothing to it, you're just basically taking off the extra mud, pushing down pretty hard. Basically slicking it out almost turns it into a second coat, but we're going to follow through with another pan of mud, do a nice tight second coat over it, and it's going to be a perfect filled in seam. See the channel? I'm not putting a bunch of mud on the wall, making a big old hump on the wall repair. I'm just filling in the groove from the old tape seams. So that's why we like to dig out the old tapes. It's a better repair, it's the proper way of doing a repair on these joint seams. Of course, certain stress cracks might be diagonal, they're not on a tape seam, so you can't dig out the old seam. But the cracks, seam cracks, you're able to dig out the old tape, always try to dig it out. Let's go ahead and slick all these out before they set up. This is just a 4-foot seam, no big deal, into the angle. Nothing to it. Let's get to the big one. This one's going to take a couple minutes to do. Fixed another pan, just a little bit thinner than the first coat. Tight second coat's all that's needed on here. Go out a little past first coat. The first coat already did the fill, and the second coat's just to make it perfect. Same thing, just move along quickly. Nice tight second coat, skim coat. Let that set up and it's pretty much ready for texture. Let me do a coat here, you'll see how I do it. Just fill it in. Like that, nice second coat, and then we'll slick it out as it sets up with a wet sponge. Hit these two patches in that other area, and that's pretty much it. And then we'll start getting ready to slick out with the sponge and get ready to do the skip trowel texture. That's why we like to dig out the old tape. Look how easy that was. One crack, two cracks, one long crack, and we're already pretty much ready for texture already. Let's clean up our pan. Same thing between coats. Always scrape out your pan, dump your excess mud, clean out your pan, and set yourself up for the next step. Always clean up your tools after you're done using. You don't want mud caking up on your pans and knives, ruining your knives. Nice. This is a blue steel 12-inch knife. I like to use blue steel versus stainless steel. It's just my preference. Blue steel does rust, so you have to sand them, keep them clean. Stainless steel, I don't like them as much. It's a tougher metal. These Flex, they work great. When you buy them, they look stainless steel, but then they start rusting out. So I prefer to use the black steel knives whenever possible. Let's go ahead and mix our skip trowel texture, and then we're going to have to slick out using our 6-inch knife wet sponge for our next step. Texture here is called red line. It's mixed in a powder form. You mix it really good, get all the clumps out. Just use regular joint compounds for texture. This is just a creamier texture that I like to use for skip trowels. You don't have to use this stuff. Most regions don't even sell it. Joint compounds are just the same. Nice, creamy, heavy pancake batter consistency. Creamy, creamy, creamy. You need creamy mud. You can't have clumps and goobers. If you have clumps and goobers in it, you have to mix it thoroughly and maybe even strain it through like a spaghetti strainer or a wire mesh strainer to get all the goobers out. But nice, thick mud. You know, it's not super thin, but it's not thick. That our texture's mixed up, ready to go. Go ahead and put the lid on it, but we got to go slick out our second coat. Let's go over it with a wet sponge, clean 6-inch knife. Get it slicked out. Let's get this going. The most important step is with the sponge is get rid of the edges. That way it transitions from the existing texture into the repair and you don't see a big sharp mud line. So we like to feather the edges. Always feather your edges before texture. Take off the excess mud. That's a perfect second coated. If your second coat still looks deep, go ahead and follow it through with a third coat, a really tight third coat. I can get away with 2 coating stuff because I do this every day, but if this is your first time doing drywall, do a third coat, tight third coat, and always use joint compounds. These hot muds that I'm using, they set up like a rock. Look at this. This is like a big rock now, cement rock. So that's why we use joint compounds if we're not a professional drywaller. Just stick to joint compounds. At least with joint compounds, take longer to work with because you have to coat it, let it dry overnight, sand it, second coat, sand it, third coat. Hot muds you do all in one trip, but it's not as forgiving as joint compounds. So you got to catch them up, slick them out as they dry away. You can't just coat it and walk away and be done with the job. You have to follow through with a 6-inch knife and a wet sponge, slick them out before they fully set up, so you have a nice perfect patch or seam repair. But let's go ahead and run through these, get them slicked out before they start drying. texture. My sponge is dry, so I'm gonna go dump it in some water and get some fresh water. Alright, same thing with that long seam. Let's go ahead and basically just taking the extra material off so you don't have a big mud hump on it. Just following it through. You can go the opposite direction. I coated it this way, so now I'm going to go the opposite way. See, I'm taking the extra mud off. There's not much because I didn't overly build it up with mud. You don't want to put a bunch of mud. Everybody thinks doing drywall is just putting a bunch of mud on the area. You're just filling in the area that needs mud. Too much mud can be a bad thing. You don't want to see a patch, a hump on the wall, so that's why we don't kick them up full of mud. You go opposite direction, whatever it takes to get that extra mud out. You're pushing it up with the damp sponge. It's almost like re-wetting the mud, so it's treating this slick out, second coat slick out. Ideally, it's turning into a fourth coat. So that's why I work with hot muds. She's ready now. The mud I mixed up earlier, here it is. Only like a half a pan. Nice clean 6-inch knife. Make sure your pan's clean. I don't want boogers in it like that. Depending on your area, you probably don't have a skip trowel texture. If you had a smooth texture, you would just do a final skim coat to leave it smooth. But we're gonna go do a skip trowel texture on these. Texture's going up and down, so I want to go with texture up and down. I don't want to go sideways, so always look at the original texture. Start up top, bring it down. Take it out past the areas, so it's a nice transition into the existing original texture. Holding the knife like that. I'm not pushing down on the knife or nothing. The knife's just gliding over, creating the skip pattern. It's just skipping over the wall. Skip, skip, skip. Skip, skip. If you like this texture, you can try practicing it on a piece of old sheetrock or something like that until you get your pattern technique down. Always trowel it down. Heavy areas like that, you can start over and just put a lighter skip. No big deal. Trowel down this way so it blends in side to side. before you walk away from it. Looks good. Let's do these small ones here. These are easy examples. The texture, you see it goes this way, so I'm going to texture the same direction. Same thing here. These are just anchor holes from a fluorescent light they had, drywall anchors. Left a big hole. No big deal, easy fix. Boom, boom. Moving along here. Same thing with this one. This one we have to do some angle work. So start in your angle, bring it out of your angle. The wall area, bring it down. This is like I said, a red line mud. That's why it's a yellow. But a regular joint compound mixed up thoroughly, creamy, will give you the same consistency. I just like to use this red line for these skip trowels. It doesn't leave air bubbles. It sands easier. It's just a creamier mud, but it's more work to mix up because it's a powder form that you have to mix up. Usually the day before, or at least prior to the job. Sometimes you have to even strain it if there's too many goobers in it. Easy to repair. Let's go do these little anchor holes, and then we'll do the big long one. I'm gonna save the biggest one for last, the fun one for last. Nothing to the skip trowel. But I have a lot of practice with skipping. I like to use a 6-inch knife. Some guys will use these big 20, 22-inch knives. That's fine for new work, new drywall. You're doing whole ceilings and stuff like that. But on these repairs, just use a 6-inch knife. If you're a perfect person using a 6-inch knife, you mastered the 6-inch knife, then you can upgrade to a bigger knife. But we got all the small stuff out of the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we just got to texture the long one. Get this done with. Clean up our floors, and you just got to let that dry overnight, and they can turn around and sand, primer, and paint. Skip trowels should be sanded, and they should always be primered before paint. I like to start on the outside edge of the repair. It helps get the pattern. Do the center of the repair. Work our way out to the outside edge. These textures are done in the newer homes, I'd say in the last 20 years. Trowel it down, trowel it down, trowel it down. Blends in nicely. Move to your next step. With the vibration from the garage door and the heat, big open room like this, you're always going to get stress cracks, so that's why you just fix them. That's why I stay busy. Skip along, skip along. Different angle here. Just skip along. When you get cracks in your house, you just want to get them repaired right away. Don't wait. And it's going to be a full length crack all the way across your ceiling. The longer you wait, the more damage. You just keep going. know. If you like the video, go ahead and like it right now. Leave a comment. Get more subscribers. I know it's a boring channel. It's a watch and learn channel. The more I grow, I get money out of these deals, even $1, then it'll be worth my time. I know how to do drywall. I'm just here for you guys. I'm gonna keep trying. 6 feet or so. Change the angle here. Everything's on the truck already, Darren. Repaired, textured seams, one long seam, 2 anchor holes, another seam angle, another seam, and 2 anchors. We did all this in less than an hour.